Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this week's video. I had to re-record it because I felt like I was looking really, really orange because of the time that I'm recording the video. I got to get my timing right, right? So we got to mess with the light in just a little bit. Y'all know I like a good natural light, even though I have a light in here as well. But I wanted to make sure that I don't look really orange or y'all be like, what kind of foundation do she got on? None. This is her skin. She just got finished drinking some water. She's getting ready to eat some food, right? Because it's all about them snacks. All right, so last week y'all saw me with the Bantu knots. I took the Bantu knots down. My hair dried. It was the lazy girl curl. It kind of waved. It did not do what it wanted. I wanted it to do. Needless to say, now I got a new hairstyle. I told y'all it's the fall. We're gonna switch it up. Head wrap, do all the things. Every week it could be something different. But the one thing that's going to remain the same is that yours truly, Patrice L. Berry EA, is going to be in here talking about topics that I feel like we should break down just a little bit more. Okay. So I told y'all this month that we would be breaking down the cash flow statement. Why? Because we don't talk about it as much as we need to. Right. So I'm going to have a presentation that I'm going to do for you and break it down next week, right? With some slides and kind of teach it more. But this week, we're going to talk about it at a high level, give you a preview of it. Y'all, I'm going to use my tool, Accounting Coach. I'm not logged into the pro version because if we went into the pro version, we could do some quizzes and things of that nature. Break it down, give more in-depth examples. But let's keep it at a high level and let's break this thing down. So let's go through what it looks like, what a statement of cash flow is, give you an example, why it's needed, and actually talk about the entire pack of financial statements that are significant when it comes to accounting. Now, y'all know how I keep telling you, you looking at you like, please don't like disengage just because you don't have a business. I keep telling you that even on the personal side of life, there is a financial statement, set of financial statements for you, right? And the reason why I'm doing this now is because timing is everything, right? So we are in the midst of a federal government shutdown. People are furloughed, and we are at a stage where we're not panicking yet, right? It'll be a week. We're not panicking yet, but we are starting to get a little bit antsy and uncomfortable because we're like, oh, okay, we're thinking it's going to take a couple days. We don't know how long it's going to take. Very political, very argumentative, very much leverage in this, right? But what are the things that we as individuals and business owners can do as we kind of gear up for the storm? Y'all know I've been talking feast and famine all year. And so understanding how cash flows, because they'll still say, even though the dollar is weakening, cash is king. So you got to have some reserves somewhere. Y'all know I've been talking about that. You got to have some reserves somewhere. But some of the things that you got to do as well is kind of do some evaluation. And this is a good time to evaluate what expenses are going where money is going to. I know last week I did my preliminary search and I saw some subscriptions in my business and personally that I was like, baby, I don't know what's gonna go on around here, and I know people are gonna get impacted. So let me go on, stop this subscription, this subscription, this subscription. But y'all know I was on that journey and have been on this journey actually throughout the summer, going there, downsizing, figuring out what kind of softwares are duplicative because AI is in everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm even doing this now, going through, and I'm gonna say this: a lot of us may have seen this commercial that is showing up quite often to me, like, how I'll give you this if you can tell me how many subscriptions you have or how much you paying a monthly. And every time I see the commercial, it makes me think, girl, you know some subscriptions that you don't even use no more. Go get rid of those. And so I had two major ones that in my business that I was able to get out of the subscription. And then as I'm thinking, because November, right, is when, if you've been paying attention to me, November is when I have some more annual subscriptions that are going to come up. So like my Canva subscription got renewed and some of those others, right? But some of the other big ticket items in my firm or some stuff that I do personally will start to renew when it comes to Black Friday deals, because I'll wait and do an annual subscription renewal then, right? Because that's an add-on to stuff like TradingView and things of that nature. So, needless to say, take the time now when you've gotten to sit still, eat good lunches, kind of go outside for walks. Got to keep your peace of mind because you don't know if they're gonna actually pass the budget and you're gonna be back at your job the next day or not. And just kind of anticipating what life looks like. Right now would be a good time to do some review of the flows that are happening in and out in your personal life and in your business as well. All right, so let's talk about what a cash flow statement is. Enough with that being on my soapbox. All right, so the cash flow statement is name commonly used by practicing accountants for the statement of cash flows, right? Cash flow statement is required for a complete set of financial statements. Now, you will hear me talk about the balance sheet and the income statement. You've been hearing me talk about those. Why? Because income statement is what we use to prepare taxes across the board. Doesn't matter what your entity is. We're using the income statement. Balance sheet is what lenders are looking at. Investors are looking at to determine, hey, does this company got life? Is there stuff going on here? Do they have too much debt? When we're trying to figure out, when we're looking at debt to equity ratios, is this a good company to invest in? That's what people are focusing mainly on, balance sheets, right? But cash flow is interesting, right? Because it serves a purpose as well, even though we don't talk about it as much. All right? The statement of cash flow reports the cash inflows and outflows that occur during the same interval time as the income statement. So, keep this in mind. You can look at an income statement monthly, profit and loss monthly. You can look at an income statement quarterly. You can look at an income statement annually. It's saying that cash flow statement is going to reflect that same time period as that income statement that you're looking at. Now, when you look at the cash flow statement monthly, it's going to look totally different than what it looked like quarterly, than what it looks like on an annual basis. Keep that in mind. All right. Then it talks about the 2 period, right? So 2 examples include year end, which is the annual, and 3 months ending September 30th. That's Q3 cash flow statement, right? The amounts of the statement of cash flow provide the reasons for the change in a company's cash and cash equivalents during the period that we're looking at. For simplicity, we're going to assume that the company does not have any cash equivalents. Therefore, it's mainly looking at the changes in the company's cash from the beginning of the year, end of the year. All right, so now we're looking at this right here. So it's talking about we're getting cash from operating activities, we're getting cash from investing activities, we're getting cash from financing activities. And so those are the 3 areas: operating, investing, and financing activities. All right, and we'll go into this in more depth next week. But cash flows from operating activities provide information on cash flows from the company's operations, what it mainly does: buying and selling the goods, providing services. All right, so it's what's our main core business. That's what operating activities cash flows tell us. When we're looking at our inflows and outflows, what's happening in the main thing we showing up to do. All right, got it? Cool. All right, cash flows from investing activities list the cash flows associated with the purchase and sale of non-current long-term assets such as investments, property, plant, and equipment. All right, so now what I just told you was cash flows dealing with net income, right? Our operating activities. That's coming from what's generating our revenue. And sometimes you can see it depending on how an accountant breaks it down. Like, for instance, in my company, because I want to make sure that we stand on track to what our main missions are: tax planning, tax relief, education. I break my revenue down into income lines so that I can make sure I see, are we doing stuff in alignment with the mission and vision for the company? Cash flows for investing activities. And investing, you be like, wait a minute. I automatically, am I in the stock market? Right? We'll think that way. But in reality, cash flow for investing activities is dealing with assets. Where are assets from, y'all? The balance sheet. So that is for investments, intangible property, intangible assets, right? So like trademarks and things of that nature, right? Property, plant, and equipment. Those are fixed assets that depreciate. Those are what's going on in our investing, right? Assets, and you'll hear this said quite often. Assets are what people are trying to build and leverage off of. Because if you got an asset and you sell it, your hope is in most cases that your asset is appreciating. We do have depreciating assets like cars and houses and things like that, but that's for accounting purposes, right? But at the same time, you get depreciation for a office space or something like that. It actually is appreciating in value based off of comps around it, right? So it's something that you could actually sell, right, if you had to, and it has a useful life of more than 1 year. Okay, all right. I know y'all probably like, she done got real accounting in. Yep, she tried to hide that account superpower. I did. All right, and then finally, let's bring it down. Cash flow from financing activities. Reports on cash flow associated with the issuance and repurchase of a corporation's bonds and capital stock, payment of dividends, and the borrowing of short-term and long-term loans. All right, so I'm gonna go back. It's the bottom part of the balance sheet. That financing activity. It's the bottom part of the balance sheet. We talking short and long-term loans, so current assets, right? Credit cards, loans, all this kind of stuff that we're paying down. And then payment of dividends and capital stock, that's your equity section. So 2/3 of this, I'm gonna tell you actually 3/4 of the, but if we're talking thirds, right? 2/3 of this information is coming from the balance sheet. The balance sheet got the bigger weight in this, right? And so we want to make sure those balance sheets are correct because it's feeding that information into the statement of cash flow, right? To tell us what we need and why we need to know how stuff flowing and inflowing and outflowing within the company. All right? Cool. Now, I'm just going to talk about something else before we go for the week. Why is cash flow statement required? Well, I already told you. This right here is going to give you an idea of what are the sets of, right? We looking at this. What are the main, when you got a complete set of financial statements, what do those consist of? An income statement, a statement of comprehensive income, a balance sheet, a statement of stockholders' equity, a statement of cash flows, and notes to the financial statements. So this comprehensive income, statement of stockholders' equity gives you a little bit more expanded information of what's going on those, right? On those sections of the tax return. I'm not tax return, my bad. I'm thinking taxes. Of the financial statements. But the three major things that you'll see are an income statement, a balance sheet, a statement of cash flows, and notes to the financial statements. Right? While the income statement makes the news, the method of accounting measures the company's sales, expenses. That's what's going on in the income statement. However, the income statement does not measure and report the amount of cash that flowed in and out of the company. For instance, the income statement does not capture cash collected from sales, cash paid for goods sold, cash paid for buildings and equipment that will be expensed over its useful life, cash received from the sale of long-term assets, cash received from bank loans, cash payments to reduce bank loan principals, because remember the interest shows up on the income statement, and cash withdrawn by owners or cash dividend paid to stockholders. In other words, it is a way for us to combine a view, a vantage point of how cash is moving in and out of the company without having to go look at two different statements. That's probably the best way to say it. Best way to think about it. Now, how, if you don't have a business, does this actually relate to you? It's your budget. It's your personal budget. Did the money come in and go to where you told the money to go to? Or did it go somewhere else? So I don't know if any of y'all, and I hate the B word. I do. I hate the B word. But I do tell my money where to go ahead of time, even on the personal side, right? But I hate it. I do. I believe in allotments and all this kind of stuff. I believe your money should, when it comes in, already have a place to go. And so that's what the budget allows us to do. It allows us to be able, okay, the money came in. Did the money go where we told the money to go? Is it allowing us to build? in investments? Is it allowing us to pay down debt? Is it allowing us to have a reserve fund or a fund? FUND, right? Or a clothes fund or a hair fund or whatever you want to call it, right? Is the money going where we tell it to go? And then you do your budget ahead of time, and then you actually do your actuals. Hey, did the money end up where I needed it to go to? Think of that as really that budget pre-month. Then actually, when you kind of look at it and say, yep, where I need to tweak, I've been spending too much money here versus here. I spent too much money on hair, so I didn't have enough money to eat out. Not me personally, because food is big for me. Okay, which is why my back is big. But needless to say, keeping this in mind, that is your personal cash flow statement. Did you tell the money where to go? Did the money actually go where it was supposed to go? So this is how you can relate it to yourself personally. I want to challenge all of us, and I do say us, to go back and look at our stuff. Is our money going where we really want it to go? Or are we just letting the money just fly out the handle? And then we looking like it's too much month after the money and not enough money in the month, right? So as we are preparing and getting ourselves cushioned for if we have a government shutdown for a long haul or if it's by the end of the week, that we can still say, you know what, I done put some good principles in practice and I'm about to adjust some stuff so that if and ever, because September 30th come around every year, and there's always continued resolutions, that I can adapt and adjust with a lot more flexibility. And it maybe every quarter I get myself into looking at my quarterly budgets. Did we do what we needed to do? Are there some subscriptions that we need to let go of? Are we actually paying down the loans? What's really happening in the operating activities in my life, the financing activities, and the investing activities in my personal life? And the same thing when we go to look at our financial statements in our business. Next week, I'll do a whole presentation where we kind of go into examples, give numbers, break some of this stuff down again. But I just wanted to do a little bit more in-depth conversation about what the cash flow statement is, why it's significant, and hey, it's like that cousin that's been sitting over in a corner eating the Cheetos that you forgot because they not drinking because they your ride. They your Uber that you didn't pay for Uber, but you invited them to the party because you and the balance sheet was getting ready to turn up. Okay? And you need somebody to get you home safely. And to report out on all the stuff and all the funds y'all had, because it might be something that you forget. Y'all let me know if that analogy worked or Patrice over here tripping. Until next week, y'all have a great one. I totally appreciate you all going down this accounting nerd journey with me. And I will talk to y'all next week. Peace.